Welcome to Sacred Vibras, a space where we honor our BIPOC spiritual practitioners and we want to share their stories, their experiences, and their wisdom to empower us all. And I'm Sarah Sanford, and today I am joined by the famous Vanessa Codorniu. And as we explore all things that she has to offer, we will engage in a conversation and hopefully you'll enjoy this interview. I wanted to just say a little thing about her so that you guys know who she is in case you don't. She is a spiritual coach, a healer, a cultural guide who empowers individuals to reconnect with their ancestral wisdom and divine purpose. With deep understanding of both Western and Indigenous spiritual practices, Vanessa helps people transform their lives through mindful rituals, energy healing, and intuitive guidance. She is passionate about creating safe spaces for the BIPOC community and to explore their spiritual paths and reclaim their power. As a teacher, Vanessa combines storytelling, ancient wisdom, and modern techniques to support personal growth, healing, and empowerment. And I'm so excited to have you here as one of my mentors and one of my spiritual advisors, guides. Thank you for being here today.
Sarah, I'm so happy I'm here. Estoy tan contenta. I'm so happy. And I'm just like, you're glowing and we're doing this and you're doing it. And I can't wait. Let's get into it.
I know you've had a long history with doing this work. What was the moment in which you realized that, hey, I can actually help other people and change the world with my gifts and the things that I've been blessed with?
Wow. So that's an amazing question. And it has, I think, for me, multi-layers, right? I grew up in a family, very mixed South American, que hacíamos limpias, that we were praying, that we had our ancestral altar with our water, la bóveda, some people call it. And so that was just part of my life, right? That's just how I grew up. And something was going on, we had to cleanse, we had to clear, and then we would go to the doctor, or then we would do whatever else we had to do. I knew at 16 when my mom asked me to bring the Ouija board home. And kids, I don't suggest you do this at home, but I told her that I got information at my high school that people brought it in. So she had me bring it in. She blindfolded me and then flipped it around. And at first I was moving it, but then I stopped and it was just words and images, words and images. And what wound up happening is that I got very specific information about my ancestors and family that I did not know, that was not discussed, and information that even impacted like my cousin in Argentina. Like I got somebody that turned out to be a great great grandmother. I didn't know that I had like some great 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 grandmother that was like Eastern European, right? I didn't know. But I'm like, Ma, the lady is very white. She looks like this. She has a black like collar with little buttons. Nobody in my family ever covered up so much like that. I'm like, and her hair's pulled back and she's very serious and she's like, tell your cousin in South America not to go to work on this day of this weekend. So anyway, months later, after we told my cousin, hey, be careful, he didn't go. And there was a robbery of the store where he was working. Somebody got shot, nobody died, but
Oh
he
my God.
wasn't at the job. He took off that weekend. So he listened, right? And then the information came through. I saw this woman with reddish hair coming out wet from a river with a little boy holding hands, like shaking like wet. And there was a car slowly going into the river behind, and there was like a broken bridge. And I'm like, Mom, I'm seeing. So because she blindfolded me, and I already knew it was intuitive, I suddenly heard, felt, saw things. And I told her this. I took the blindfold off. I'm 16, and my mom goes, okay. Like, wow, this is real. Then she went and took a picture of my dad that was sitting on their night table, just a photo of him, opened up the back, pulled out a picture of this woman with reddish hair. And I'm like, she's like, she was your dad's girlfriend before me. And she married somebody else, had a child, and then a bridge collapsed in a part of Argentina and they fell in a river and died. Right. Shocking, right? And after that, I gave my dad a reading for his business. I knew nothing. And then after that, for 8 months, they had me reading people. I realized at 16 that I had a gift that was untrained yet, that was not prepared to be public.
Yeah.
So 16, I realized that. But then as I got older and I started doing circles at 19, and then I stopped, then at 29, and it was free, like for years, every month in my house, how people kept saying, this is my church, girl, this is my church. And again, it wasn't hierarchical. It was people coming in. We did a cleanse. We did a journey. We read each other. We talked about things. And I just realized, I was like, you know what? I know that in my family, this is secretive. Like,
Mhm.
have a gift. We all know how to do some things, but we don't tell people. And that's when I realized. But I buried it. I was like, okay. After 8 months, I said, I lost my powers. I don't have it anymore. I can't do this. I was like, no puedo más. Because I was like, can I just be a teenager? So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Then later, at different stages of my life, I saw the impact,
I think that's so crazy, that story, because I gave myself that same test with the Ouija board.
Wow.
I felt that I was so drawn to all of the, like my mom used to read like the taza
Yes.
and cards and stuff, but she would never teach me. She was afraid that I was too young. But like since I was a little girl, I was always seeing things. Anyway, long story short, I was so drawn to the Ouija board, started doing that with my friends. And then after a while, like I was like, you know what? I think that I can answer the questions without the board. And they would ask me things, and it was so crazy. Like they would freak out, and I was like channeling spirits and all kinds of stuff. And then I freaked out because I was just like, wait, I don't feel like myself. What's going on? Like, I feel like my body is disconnected. Like, it was crazy. But that just opened the door. And after that, I started to realize, like, oh, wait, this is like a thing. Like, I am inheriting this from my lineage. Like, my mom clearly has this thing. And even as a kid, I remember like tiny, like, I don't know, maybe like 5 years old, me telling my mom that I was seeing things in the house, like, oh, look, I see a man. He's standing there with a hat and he's waving at me and he's telling me this. And my mom would freak out. And not so much freak out because of what I was seeing, but because whatever I was saying was so connecting
Yeah.
to her that she would just start crying. And so, like, I got scared of it and I would stop saying things because I felt like it would make people sad. So I started to push it away. And although it called me, I felt the same thing. Like, I was just like, no, that's not me. That's not me. I don't know what's going on. Like, leave me alone. But yeah, it's definitely crazy how us in this spiritual world, how the stories are similar of how you develop your gifts or how you're called to this work. It's almost like there's always like a common thread, I find.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
and there are some people, Sarah, that don't discover it till like later,
yeah,
but because I've met a lot of them, but at least for you and me and several others, we did have it earlier. I think after reading adults for 8 months, I was like, ya basta, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, because there were men coming to my parents' house,
yeah, yeah,
40, 50-year-old men, and I'm like 16.
yeah.
And I'm sitting there praying and telling them things, you know, and I'm like, oh, I'm right. You know what I mean? But for you, I know that about you. You're so highly intuitive that it
Yeah.
doesn't shock me that your mom was like, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like she really fought against it because she had a bad experience with her readings that she was doing, and so she kind of wanted to stop it. But that was around the time that my whole thing was like becoming aware, and I mean, I was always so curious, but the from teenage years, I feel like is when it really peaks and you really get like
Mhm.
awareness about everything, and so it's it's just so interesting. And I feel like it really depends on your family. If your family is encouraging and open and following these same practices, you embrace it a little bit better than someone whose family is like, no, that's evil, blah, 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 like all of that stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
agreed.
that's really tough to navigate when you're a teenager and nobody is trying to give you the guidance and you're just like out there in the world. I'm weird. I see things. I feel things. What's happening to me? So it's beautiful that you did have your family supporting you and guiding you and like encouraging you.
It is. And, you know, I don't even know, I don't understand even how they got it, but I know that even back to my great grandfathers and grandmothers, like men and women, they were doing things for the family.
Yeah.
And what I mean by things, I don't mean like spells per se. I mean prayers, which are spells,
Yeah.
really. They were doing readings, they were doing healings, but then they were like, shh, don't tell anybody. And I
Mhm.
think that's how they were able to either bring it back or keep it. They just kept it private. But
Yeah.
I will tell you this, as much as they encouraged me and my mom taught me, we didn't have the word empath, but I knew that when I walked in a room, if I was happy, sometimes I'd start getting sad and cry. Right? Did you get that too? And then you don't know why. And you're like, why? I'm like, crying
all the time.
if I'd come back and be like, esa muchacha, something wrong with her. But somebody's harming her. And then I would find that my friend was molested. You know what I mean? Like it was heavy duty. And my mom would be like, te vas a enfermar si seguís así. She'd be like, you're going to get sick if you keep going like this. You're going to get mentally, something's going to happen to you. What I would say is that when I finally did step out, like I started reading people professionally at 22. I was hired at a talent agency. They thought I was an actor. And then I went to an event. They took me to an event in Manhattan and I read so many people. And then people started telling them, don't go to the other two, come to this one. I was in an outfit and a costume and I kept reading and reading and reading. And then they called me, they're like, is there something you want to tell us, VC? They called me VC. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, we brought you on because we thought you were taking acting classes and you had, an outfit you could wear. And I'm like, no, I'm real. I was like, I'm really real. So when I started getting hired, my parents were okay with that. They lived in another state. I was living alone. I was independent. But then when I went like full time, they were not happy with that. I just want you to know. And it was because I
Mm,
think it called up a lot of fears.
yeah,
Like, yes, do it for your life. Prepárate, cuídate. They thought spiritual life was like the center of everything. Like you had
right.
to cleanse yourself and do that. Otherwise, things fell apart. But then they were like, no, no, don't tell people. Like, and because you have a business, when you're online, like you're doing podcasts like this, you're talking, you're visible. I went from the name Urban Priestess, then later I became the Biz Bruja. My parents were like, "Ah," and it was, I think, ancient because 400 years of witch hunts in Europe and then also in South America.
Yeah,
I looked up in Lima, where I was born and where some of my ancestors are from, there were witch hunts there and also in Argentina
yeah,
that we don't know about because it's not really shared about in history.
yeah,
So they were like, no, what if people turn against you? Who's going to want to date you? What's going to happen to you? They were so worried.
yeah,
But then before they passed, they were both like, you know what? You did good. And I'm like,
yeah.
you helped me, you
Oh,
started, but it
yeah,
was hard. I would have to fight against them. When I went full time online in 2012, end of 2012, they were like, no, stay in corporate. What are you doing? Please, what if, not only the independent business, but also the nature of the business. So
yeah. I think
miedo, tenía miedo.
my mom too. Like, I think when she first started seeing that I was like doing readings online and stuff, she was like, "What is it that you're doing?" I was like, "Don't worry about it, mom. It'll be fine. Like, don't worry, because she was always like, ay, ten cuidado, no se le puede decir todo a la gente. You can't tell everybody everything. I had a lot of discernment, but it definitely was a journey to get to that point of like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm embracing it. This is who I am. And at the same token, I don't know about you, but in the early stages when I started to do a lot more work, imposter syndrome started to pop up for me. And I started to wonder, am I really like doing this? Am I really communicating these things? Is this really real? I don't know if that ever happened to you. I remember like testing myself. I would always put myself in these tests and I would try to read people I had no connection with.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle of the US or somewhere on the other side of the world. Let me do a reading for you and let me get your response after. Don't tell me a thing and let me see what happens. And that's how I started to build my confidence because I was like struggling with imposter syndrome and thinking like this can't be real. Like what is this? What is happening here? What is really going on? Where are these
True.
messages coming from?
I'm really glad that you brought that up because so many people write me and they're like, I feel like I'm imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, you have to test yourself to some degree in a safe surrounding. So what happened with me, because I had all these older people when I was 16, for 8 months, like every week, my dad brought somebody over every weekend. So I was reading people every weekend, right?
Yeah.
That I didn't know. But then at 22, they sent me to parties. And I was literally in a nightclub setting or a bar mitzvah, well, not so much bar mitzvah readings, but let's say anniversary parties. I went to a sweet 16. I was in a quinceañera reading in the corner. Yes, I was. So they had me reading a Halloween party, like all these with all these people,
Yeah.
and doonch, touch, all
Yeah.
that. Like I'm in my golden bubble of light, like por favor, Dios.
I know that's tough.
But what would happen is that, so I got booked like almost every week in my early 20s. So I was always with strangers. And that's when I had to battle the imposter syndrome because they're supposed to be having fun. It's a party. And somebody would be like, oh, my dog, mi perrita, Chiqui is going to get a surgery. Is she going to be okay? And there's like 5 minutes for each person because I'm reading like 30 people or whatever it is, or 40. And I'm literally getting a message. Chiqui does not matter. They will be fine. Chiqui will be fine. You must tell her that her marriage is being affected by her early situation with her parents. They fought so much that now she's recreating the fighting with her
Oh
husband.
no.
Like, that's not fiesta. I'm like, she's in the party. She's in some party. I can't ruin it. So they're like, you must, you must. So I felt so tested. Those 5 years at that talent agency entertainment company, I felt so tested. And there I was, and I'm like, no, boy, I'm going to lose my job. And it's like, no, you have to. But I didn't get backlash.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of faith. So anybody who's new and reading out there, get to know your gifts through practice. But then also you have to put yourself in situations where you don't know people, and also learning how to deliver the information.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten so many people who are like, oh, I can't have kids. And I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah.
Like, the reader told me I'll never have them. And I'm like, but did you go to the doctor? Did you?
Right.
Just so rebelde. Like, when people tell me you'll never make it or you can't do it, I'm like, watch me, right?
Yeah.
I'm very rebellious inside, where I don't care. It hurts me when people like doubt me or whatever, put me down. But it also brings out the fighter,
Yeah.
where some people go, oh, you're right. And
Yeah.
so, oh, sí tienen razón. And they would say to me, oh no, Vanessa, because this reader was well known and this and that. And I'm like, no, there's a chance here. Go
Right.
to the
There's still free will.
Right. And they went to do the tratamientos and they had kids. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, oh no. I even went to a reader once. This was such a sweet person. She has like 7 kids. Beautiful, gorgeous lady in Miami, con 7 chicos, and didn't work. She just was trying to get her readings going. And then when I went to do a reading and she knew about me, she knew I was online. So it was already 2014. And she looked at me and she was reading me. She goes, you're not going to have love. You're not going to have love in this life. In this life, like, I get the love and I get the kids, but I don't get like to travel and do everything you do. She goes, but you don't get the love. You just get like the business and the service. And I went, oh no, I'm sorry. I've already had a lot of love. My first boyfriend proposed to me at 19. We were together from 16. He was amazing. I wasn't ready. I was like at 22 and 24, I got proposed to with my boyfriends who were amazing people, but I didn't want to marry that young. I'm like, I already had love. So it already happened and it's going to. But I said it nicely.
Mhm.
And she was very like, but I didn't want to battle with a reader. And I thought she
Yeah.
was a great person. And I said, you know what? She's just projecting. She's just upset that she's
Mhm.
home. But I wasn't sad that I didn't have the kids. I was like, Mira, I already had a lot of kids in another life. Okay. I was very nice to her. I paid her. I was like, look. And then years later, she wrote me. She goes, you know what I realized? She goes, I think that in my mind, I thought, well, she got that. She can't have that. And I said,
Like you
honey,
can't have it all kind of thing.
great. I'm like, Mama, no, I ain't stopping till I find it. It's happening. So
Yeah.
that's also a good point. Yes, we're going to feel imposter syndrome in the beginning. We have to move through it. And I want to share one more thing. Like, when I was working for that company, I literally was like sweating and like freaking out a little bit every time I went to a party. It's a little like, adios mío, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think, but I knew I had to do it. You can't prepare. It's
No.
not preparing for a job. Yes, you ground and you breathe and you're going to cleanse yourself. But then you just have to jump off the cliff and let the spirit catch you, right? You have to get the information in the moment and fly. You're like, okay, you pray and you jump off, and you're like, am I going to fly? Yes. So I think it's always this feeling of like flying on faith and just jumping out. And I remember I left my tarot cards in a cab. So I show up, and clients, especially in person, they love a picture.
Yeah.
They love a picture. Okay. They love to look at it and be like, look, this is the Empress, this is you.
Right, right, right.
You don't do that, torre, right? So I'm like, what am I going to do? I have to back out. Spirit's like, no, you're going to sit and you're going to do what your grandma did. You're going to hold her hands. And so I was like, I came in and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, dándole la mano, respirando. And so I held everybody's hand and got the messages. And then I walked out like, wow, I felt like I went through a trial by fire. So those years at that place was like my trial by fire in the trenches.
Yeah. No, I think that that's important for anyone who's walking this path, is to like continually showing up and trusting that if you're feeling called and you feel that pull, like you can't escape it. Like no matter how much I tried to ignore it, like it would just keep coming. And I remember one lady that did a reading for me one time. She told me years ago, she was like, oh my God, you're going to do this work. And I was like, what? And she was like, you're going to do this work and you're going to help all of these people. She would like spread out the cards and she's like, look at all the people you're going to help. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yes, and you have a strong, they call it un don. Tú tienes un don
Sí,
fuerte. Like you
me
have a
dijeron eso
very,
a mí también, los dones, yeah.
yeah. She's like, it's so big and it's so strong. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I'm trying to get away from this. Like, no. And she's like, yeah, this is going to be like your life. Like, you're going to do what I do. You're going to help so many people. You're going to do more than what I do. And I was just like, no. This is crazy. Like, what is she talking about? Like, no, I don't even see that. I don't feel that. I was nowhere near it. I remember getting another reading later on, and I went to school. I don't know if you know this, but I went to school to be a dancer and,
Yes, I do.
yeah, professional
Love that about
dancer.
your story.
I taught dance and all of this. And at the time, I was thinking about pivoting my career, and I was like, you know what? Let me get a reading. Let me see what the stars want. Because at this point, I was still resistant, and I'm like in my 30s at this point. And she was like, you're going to learn and grow and you're going to shift careers, but I don't see you going back to school. And I was like, oh, yeah, great. Because I don't want to go back to school to learn a different career. She was like, but I see you doing a lot with the mind. And I was like, hmm. She was like, in the like realm of psychology or like therapy, like mental health, like in that aspect. And I'm like, well, I've always loved that. She was like, yeah, you're definitely going to go down this path, but it's something different. You're going to do something unique and like it's something with the mind and you're going to change people's lives. And I was just like, okay, that was like the second time I heard something like that. Then another time I get in a cab in New York City, going home from an event or something, and the guy is like, I'm a little intuitive. Do you mind if I give you a message? And I was like, no, go right ahead. And he was like, yeah, I'm getting this message that you're an innovator. You're going to help all these people. And I'm like, here we go again with this helping people nonsense. Like, what is this about?
No, I
And he
know.
was like, I see you educating people and helping people with their lives, and you're going to be doing all of this teaching kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, at that time, I had already been teaching. So I'm like, oh, maybe he's seeing what I'm currently doing. He was like, no, this is later on, way out in the future. And I was just like, wow, again, another helping people, educating, all of this stuff. And then one day it hit me. All of it started to make sense when obviously I stepped into this path. All of it connected. I was just like, oh my God, wait, this is what the readings were about. It's this, what I'm doing now. It was the craziest thing. And I went back to even my childhood and how I used to play making potions. That was like my thing. That was my favorite thing to do as a child. Go out into the field, pick all kinds of herbs, and I was making potions. And I thought about that and oh my God, this has been my destiny. Since I was a
Yeah.
child, I've been making potions, telling my mom about spirits that I was seeing, the Ouija board, everything just came together and wow, mind blown.
For you, it like blew your mind. For me, I already knew, but I could see because I remember going to my mentor, Mari, who's Dominican, and she's like, "¿Pero qué tú estás aquí? No me necesita." And I'm like, "I do need you because I'm 22 and I'm reading people and I need help."
Yeah,
But it's an amazing journey, and I've had all those things as well. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? When are you going to finally go full time? We
yeah.
know that you're doing it because I was doing it.
Mhm.
Like I got trained in hypnosis in my 20s, right? So I've been doing hypnosis for 25 years, but and Reiki, I also got trained in my 20s. That's what I would do instead of spend my money drinking or traveling with girlfriends. I lived alone already. I just put my money into trainings. And
Yeah,
my mom would be like, pero what are you doing? I don't know cómo, y no sé cuándo, y no sé lo que pasa. But I think that when you have a calling like you do, like I do, like so many of us do, it does catch up to you.
yeah,
And I think that it's in the moment, like when it's time
yeah.
that we build and we build towards it. I also, when I was 26, I went to a party where they got our birth information. They had the natal charts and the astrologers like, by the way, you're going to work from home one day. And I was like, you are so wrong. I was like, I don't think so. I am the person that everybody likes at the office, that everybody tells me everything, Gemini rising. I'm like la 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 la, right? I'm like the person that if they don't like each other, I'll figure out a way for them to get along better. I was like that. I can't work alone in mi casa. And then by the end of 2012, there I was teaching on conference calls and doing readings on the phone and Skype, and then eventually getting onto Zoom. It was very hard at first. When I went on online at end of 2012, the thing is, people didn't see me at first if I did group sessions because it was conference calls. And then when it got into Zoom, but I was kind of chained to my house because I was always busy
Yeah.
teaching. And so that's where it got hard, where I had to really think about it and be like, let me plan to go eat with my friend. Let me plan to go out. Otherwise, estaba metida en la casa.
Yeah.
But the astrologer was right. I had Jupiter in the fourth house, which is expanding like the blessings in your home and also ancestral. And I was like, okay, I didn't want to hear it, but here I am.
I
And
know.
and now I don't really want to go back,
Yeah.
It's really, but I love that you had that awakening in those levels. And I want to share something about dancing. I once got a reading with somebody who told me the way you're going to walk into the public seeing you as a healer, like big, not just locally in Queens. She goes, is because you're going to walk in dancing.
Mm.
You're a dancer. I'm like, not really. I said, I'm a dancer. I dance though. Like I would go to parties, never drink, and dance all night till 5 in the morning.
Yeah, same.
And I belly danced, whatever. I love that. And I had been belly dancing at the time. And she would say to me, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Okay. And what ended up happening, I don't know if you know Megan Watterson. She specializes in the Black Madonna and Magdalene Chronicles. She's a published author through Hay House. Gabby Bernstein, many other people. They created an organization and I was on the board. But when they reached out to me, you know what they wanted me to do? They didn't want me to do ancestral healing. They didn't want me to do hypnosis. They didn't want me to do psychic readings or intuition development. This is 2007. They wanted me to teach a dance class. And so I wound up, so I called it embodying the feminine energy. So we talked about intuition. And then I had my friends who used to drum at spiritual gatherings that we were out. And I taught people and like just going into their body and breathing and moving. I was like, spirit, move me. Because I was like, please, I'd rather do intuition. I'd rather do a hypnosis for ancestral healing. I'd
Right.
rather do this. And they were like, this is what we saw you do. They saw me in a festival dancing and getting people going,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it's wild, right? How these things, because you were trained as a dancer,
Yeah.
you had this dawn all your life.
Yeah.
And then in the right moment, it started to kick in and kick in.
Yeah.
And for me, I just love to dance. And they're like, that's how I'm going to know you for.
It was almost like
I'm
the
like,
reverse.
I did it. I danced.
It was like the reverse, the reverse. Yeah, I think that dance definitely
Yeah.
became a spiritual practice. When I stopped dancing professionally, I felt a huge void in my life. I think that that's why this whole path opened up in the way that it did, because when I stopped dancing, I didn't have that connection to myself, to like, it was a spiritual experience, dancing, especially if you're creating dance. And stepping away from that definitely opened up then the possibility of like, well, you're not communicating with us this way. You're not receiving messages through your body in this way. So we're going to have you go this way instead. So it was very interesting that transition and feeling that difference of that communication, especially with your body. But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about some of the things that you work on with clients and how you feel with how maybe somebody who has a more cultural background and experience with the esoteric and it being part of the culture opposed to someone who doesn't. Have you felt the differences? Are people more open or not? Or how has that been something that you've navigated?
Thank you. That's such a great question. Well, when you're trained in hypnosis, you meet people where they're at and you don't put your mindset on them. You can guide them to what they want, a more open mindset or more healed mindset, but you've got to meet them where they're at. And I studied a lot of religions from a young age and have been around people who have different religions and dated people. So if somebody comes in and they don't believe in something, let's say Christian, Catholic have more of a leaning towards heaven, right? But they may feel weird about ancestors unless they're younger or more open-minded, right? So I'm going to speak in their language. I'm not going to enforce anything on them.
Right.
People come in and they are open. And that's one of the questions I always ask before I go into hypnosis. I always ask them, what is your idea? Or how do you perceive your relationship with God? Because those are the words I have to use then in the hypnotic suggestions
Uh-huh.
that already exist within them. So I really meet people where they're at. I never convince people of things. If people are curious, I teach and I guide them. But also, a hypnosis session or a reading isn't always the place to be breaking everything down, because
Right,
you
right,
got to
right.
really deliver the questions. And I, I think it was like 12 years ago when I was in Orlando in a hot tub, and it's coming to me. And these two German folks said to me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I have an online business." And I left it at that. I didn't talk about it anymore. And because I'm like, I don't know how people are going to take it. I'm not in the
Yeah.
mood to deal with people. And then they're like, "Oh, well, my sister reads runes online." So that was wild. And I was like, "Oh, go your sister in Germany." So I'm like, "Well, since you brought that up, hon, let me make it te cuente, right?" So I told them, and they're like, "Wow." These two guys were like, "Wow." Then they went, "Well, how do you deal with people who are against what you believe or who don't like what you do?" But most of the time, I will say that the haters don't probably look at me anymore. They've blocked me. I did get a guy who was like a Hollywood producer who came to me and he's like, "I'm only here because my wife said you're good. She's taking your classes." And so I was like, "Okay." And he's like, I'm eating. I don't know what's going on. And I'm gaining a lot of weight. And I've gone to this and I've gone to that. And I'm in therapy. I feel good about my life. I'm really in a good place right now with the kids, with my family, my business. So he goes, "But I don't believe in any of this stuff. So you do your mumbo jumbo, you do your woo woo." This was a while back, 10 years ago. And I'm like, or 9 years ago. I'm like, "Fine." So I use the words that work with them. But I said, "Well, is it okay if I ask if the subconscious, if we're going to go into a past life?" He's like, "Yeah, do the little film in my head, whatever, just to solve it. I don't care. I don't believe it. I don't care." Well, it turned out that it really wasn't present life stress that was making him eat a lot. He had some attachments, soul attachments. We had to release them. The soul attachments like to eat when they were alive. He had three. Because, like, I'm gulping hot dogs. I don't even eat hot dogs. I was a vegetarian. What's happening to me? I'm eating, and was what's going on? So we released the soul attachments that had hooked onto him. We integrated the past life. And then he came back for a second one. He's like, "I got to tell you, I already lost 5 pounds. I don't know what you did to me. I don't care. It worked." So he came out like, this worked. And then the second one we did was just to like firm up the programming or the new ideas and thoughts about him honoring his body, that he's safe, that the energy, that things are going to bounce off of him, nothing's going to attach. And I tried to give him some cleansing and grounding techniques. He really was like, he goes, "I'll take a hike and I'll breathe the air when I'm hiking." No. But he really didn't believe it. It worked for him. So it's an interesting thing, but that's how I really deal. And if somebody comes to me and they are initiated into an African religion like Yoruba, right? And many others, they sometimes believe that you're incarnated into your own family line.
Mm-hmm.
So their mind gets blown if they do have a past life that's affecting them and they wind up in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm like, "But you don't know. You also could have been African as we all are, and then got real European-y, and then you went back." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that happens, right? It's like we marry different people, we have children with different people, and our race shifts sometimes, and our skin tones and our hair. And so that's what I try to do, to really listen and key in, not push anything, and try to support them where they're at.
Yeah, wonderful.
Now, if somebody challenges me, I stay away. I got a message from somebody who's mentally unstable. They're like, "You got trained by this person. Did you get trained? Because I have a lot of entities and I have this and I have that. And I went to him and he didn't do it. Da 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 da." And I was like, "No," because he was stable. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He wasn't well. So I'm not going to go try to do any of that. And I ask questions of people's mental health too, because I wouldn't want any processes that I'm involved with. If somebody has
Surprise.
schizophrenia, if somebody has something,
Yeah.
because I have found, especially during the pandemic, when I was really busy, like 7 days a week working and teaching, I'd be doing like an Akashic record 6 hours on Saturday and then 4 hour Reiki on Sunday. It was a lot. And I found that a lot of people really were leaning too much into the spiritual, think it was going to solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I would train people and be like, "This is helpful along with Western medicine." Miracles happen, but it's also we are a soul and a body, and we're learning lessons in this body. Doesn't matter how great we look, we're all going to age and eventually leave the body at some point in time. And it doesn't matter how spiritual we are. Like when I was told by my guides that my parents and my brother were going to leave in a year, I said, "Can I do anything?" They said, "No, there's
Yeah.
nothing. There's nothing. You can't pray hard enough. You can't
Yeah.
light enough candles." So I think that's what it is really meeting people where they're at. Yeah.
It's also like important to understand that this is not like you said, a quick fix. It's not a remedy for all. This is a lifestyle. This is a way for you to condition your mind, your body, your spirit. This is a way to live in harmony. It's a way for you to live I want to say a clean life. Clean meaning that you're not dragging any negativity, any harmful energy, anything that could be detrimental to your existence, that you're living this life that is pure and it's coming from a pure space, right? And I feel that a lot of people don't understand that. They think that we're here to just, oh, here's the fix. But I really feel like for me, a reading, when I give readings to wake people up, right? You're experiencing X, Y, and Z because there's a part of you that's just like ignoring, suppressing, running away from probably some kind of thing or experience that hasn't been addressed. And this is why you're experiencing this in this life. This could be even from a past life that hasn't been resolved. And so I feel that it's about learning more of who you are, and it's about practicing that constant connection with not just you in the physical sense, you in a spiritual sense, and you connected to your history, your ancestors. Like, where did they come from? What were their struggles? How does that all fill into you? And I know you do so much work with ancestral healing. How do people navigate the situations with you when they may have so much prior baggage that they're carrying into this lifetime? How do you equip them to move forward?
I love that question. Yes, and what you said about waking people up, yes, we want to wake them up. We want to support, inspire. So I always recommend people go to therapy, honestly, because even if you do 3 sessions of hypnosis with me and a lot happens and a lot shifts and the entities or attachments are taken off and we integrate past lives, you're still living in the nucleus of your home and your life. Your dysfunctional parents, maybe, and we know a racist, homophobic system, right? That we all live in.
Mhm.
It's like, yes, people of color can still shine and grow and etc. And still there is also racism going on and there's homophobia. So you can't bypass that. I talk about like cleansing, I talk about clearing, I talk about rituals and just basic things to cleanse your house. Every Monday, I like to do it. The beginning of the week, abre caminos, right? Opening the roads. And it depends. If they're very Catholic, I'll be like, do your prayers around the house.
Yeah,
If you're not, if you are Buddhist, do, when you have gongs
the
and things,
chance. Yeah.
things and chant. It's like work with the system, but definitely we can't continue ignoring our spiritual, our mental and emotional. I mean, we ignore our physical too. We can't continue to ignore things and let them pile up and then be like, oh, what happened? Right. So, like, I do cleanse my house every Monday. I cleanse myself every day. I do. Because even though I have a really strong shield, I still need to like
Yeah.
get
Because
rid of
it's
things.
the work. Yeah.
Right. And so I do that. And then what I do, I have a protocol that I developed over the years and I call it, it's trademarked, but it's the ancestral healing hypnosis. And in it, it also has like different parts to it, which is, do we have attachments? And attachments are just souls that, I mean, it could also be attachments of a living person that has had so much influence on you that you have cords from them, right?
Yeah.
Energetic. It could be people who passed on who know you, people who passed on who don't, past lives that are still with us and are affecting our decision. And then it could be the ancestral curse or the ancestral thing. And so in the hypnosis session, we do work to start clearing and releasing. And then when we come out, I'm like, nature, do things that you love, like very basic wellness, good things that
Mhm.
keep grounding. And if you're super sensitive, like get away from people.
Yeah.
And like, 'cause I'm telling you, I love people. I was like, I don't want to work from home. I also have the sun, the moon, and Mercury in the 12th house. That tells you a lot. Like, I also am a lot in my solitude, and then I go out and I'm very social.
Mhm.
Get like confused. I'm like, no, no, I have to be alone to hear my spirits and
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So we all need a space to cleanse, to breathe. And I think too, for us to say out loud, I release. I release patterns and thoughts and beliefs and relationships and situations that no longer serve me in my highest good to my highest fulfillment. Like repeating that even in the shower, repeating that as we take a walk and breathe. The thing is, you have to be ready, because if something isn't serving you,
It
your
will.
business partner may go bye-bye.
Yep. Yep.
Your bestie might not talk to you after a
Yeah.
while.
Yep.
These are energetics that we're weaving into our aura. I've had so many things fall through, and sometimes it makes me sad, but it's like, no, girl, you're always chanting that. Si no me sirve que se vaya.
Yep.
Water that you shouldn't drink, let it go, but let it flow by. I was raised with that. And so instead of just being able to go, oh, I have this, or I did this, I want to go, no, I want the right thing. I want the thing that's in alignment for me. So that's what I would say. I try to equip men in that way. And I really try to tell them that, even though it may seem really powerful, because you know the power of hypnosis, you do it, how powerful it is, how life-changing it is, that we need upkeep. We
Yeah.
need upkeep. Una
Yeah.
limpia in your whole life isn't going to like do it forever.
I mean, it's like
Brush our
eating
teeth every
food.
day.
It's like eating food. You can eat now. It's not going to take you for the whole week. You still have to. You have to eat again. You have to keep exercise. You have to move your body. Like their daily rituals, daily routines, daily practices. All of those are interchangeable and necessary for us to live a happy, harmonious life. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that there's that third aspect of us, the mind, the body, and the spirit. What are you doing to take care of the spirit part? It's still part of who we are. And that can open a whole can of other worms when we start talking about the mind, body, spirit, because immediately I go to like my Catholic upbringing and think of the spirit, God, and the three, the Holy Trinity, and how that's such a big concept. It's the same thought process. It's the same thing. It's very powerful once you have that routine, that structure in your life. It completely changes everything.
Yeah. And
Completely.
you know that it has you, like it has your back. You know that your prayers and your cleansings and your clearings have your back. And the fact that you brought up the Holy Trinity, I say my prayers in threes. People sometimes are shocked because, right, I do limpias and all that. And I also, the biz bruja, you're like, ay, una bruja, Dios mío. But that's not why I call myself that. I was like, I still do my Hail Marys and Our Fathers, because
Yes.
I was raised in it, and there's generations of family members. The thing is, I think Latinos are always like, and other people too, because I think some Irish are also doing their own thing, but also praying to Jesus, and Italians. But we do Catholicism our way. So I'll go make an ofrenda Inca medicine style in my backyard in the green grass and talk to Pachamama, Madre Tierra, Mother Earth. And then I come here and I'm like, no Padre, Hijo, Espíritu Santo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Why does it have to be one or the other when when our ancestors come from so much?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not one thing. We're really not one thing, no matter what we look like. We're not one thing. And our family lineage has gone through so many stories that I thought about throwing out all of the Catholic things, but I'm like, you know what? My mom did mixed things, and my grandmothers did mixed things. So I'm another generation of mixed things, and then taking it the next level. I'm not going to diss my ancestors either, who
Right.
fervently believed in La Virgen and were like, yeah, La Virgen te salve. I'm going to include it in some way.
Right. There's power in all of it, I believe. Totally. I want to close a practice that you want to share to the world that maybe we wouldn't need right now. What would be a message or a practice that you think will be beneficial for people to implement in these times that we're in right now?
Thank you so much. A couple of things come to mind, but the first thing that came to my heart was reclaiming joy. When we think about ancestral healing, it's a lot about crying, and I've cried, and people have cried. We think about ancestral healing about mourning, and we need that in grieving. And I think in these times, we have to cultivate connection, community, and joy. And that looks different for all of us. I would say to do it in a way that feels good to us isn't escapist, right? Like too much alcohol can be escapist, right?
Right.
Other things that we could take can make us immobile and disconnected from the earth. Plant medicine is good until we overdo it,
Right.
without saying anything, but lo digo igual, I'm saying it. But I would say this is a very powerful thing. And as you were talking about it earlier, like put on music that you love and dance around your house. I'm sad that I don't dance as much as I used to. And
Yeah.
moving your hips and you're shaking it out and you're moving and connecting. And if that's not it, go into your garden if you have one. And if you don't have a garden, get a plant. Whatever it is that's not work, because work can also be joyful. I know you love your work. I love my work. But what is it that makes you feel alive? Is it cooking a beautiful, delicious meal for your family and sharing it for so many of us, right? La familia. Is it sitting around shooting the shit, telling the stories of los abuelos? Oh my God, I remember my brother and I were talking about it the other day. We were laughing so hard about our grandparents. Um, these things bring joy and they anchor us into our own reality. where we're being fed so much distortion out and fear and
Right.
stress right that we need to create those bubbles of joy. And it's not somebody's like, oh, how can you be going through that when the world is falling apart in so many different ways? I'm like, look, if I don't take care of my joy, I can't help my clients.
Right.
Because if I show up like this and show up like I've been crying, and I've shown up crying before in during the pandemic with my family passing, but if I do that long term, that will take away my abilities. Because
Yeah.
lo is we also have to share them from a full cup, right? So I think that always the cleansing, the clearing, move your body, connect to things that bring you joy. What brings you joy may not be what brings somebody else joy, right?
Right.
I find a lot of joy in improv, and that is when people give you a suggestion, you make everything up. I even teach a class right here in Harrisburg, and I've been including it in my regular business. But I'll tell you this, there's at least 3 or 4 generations of women in my family who wanted to perform or started to perform, and they were stopped by their family. They were
Mm.
told, "You want to be a streetwalker, una barata, cheap lady," this stuff. Las cosas, the things that they tell you to keep you down or keep you
Yeah.
safe too, any day. Like, I take a lot of joy of being, "Oh, we gotta get to the theater by 8:30." And I tap everybody. We're like, got your back, got your back, jump. We make something up. We laugh. I jump off. Maybe I go back home or I watch the shows, support my friends. That ease of being able to move through being home and working to getting on stage and having audiences laugh and making myself laugh and making each other. Sometimes we're like, oh my God, we're ridiculous. So do the things that bring you joy. We're allowed to have joy even if the world is suffering because we have to fill those tanks.
Yeah.
We have to,
We still need to survive.
yeah.
And we get to survive in a way that's healthy and not in a way that's in survival. Because we know that. We know that survival way of living and it doesn't support you in any way. It creates stress, ailments, all kinds of things. And so moving forward in a healthy way is definitely by incorporating joy. I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that up and for sharing that. Thank you so much for everything you've shared, all your stories. I'm always like, you always have so many rich stories.
What are
Like,
you girls? What are you? I love you.
I love it. I love all the stories of your experiences and things that you have seen in this walk. It's so beautiful to have that and to be able to lean on that to support you to be who you are. And thank you for being in service and all that you offer and all that you give to all of us. So grateful and so happy that we got to spend this time together. And where people can find you in case they're like they should be in love with you by now. Share some of your contact information.
Thank you, my love. Thank you, Sarah. I love you so much. I'm so glad you're doing this. You're incredible. You are such a beam of, I think, sassy light. You know, you bring it, girl. You bring the truth and you bring the love and the power. So, gracias por tenerme aquí. Thank you for having me. So, if people are interested, you can check me out at thebizbruja.com. You'll find all the information. You can follow me on Instagram, thebizbruja with a J. And you can also find my podcast at the Biz Bruja Podcast. You can find me on iTunes, Spotify, and I have a Spanish for over a year now, Nacimos Mágicas podcast in Espanol. And also, if you're interested in bringing improv to your nonprofit or your company or anything like that for leadership training, improv-unleash.com. So, gracias. Bye,
Yes, I'll
everybody.
make sure I'll put all the links down below so anybody can share that and anybody can come and check you out further.
I love you. Mucho amor a todos. Gracias. Bye, everyone.